Brian, I would like to talk to you about rainbow families, because you have got one of your own. Can you try to explain how it is for you to have this rainbow family?
I'm very, very happy to have my little family. I'm married with a man, Mads, and we have a little daughter called Liv, and she's 5 years old. And Liv has her mother as well, who's living 5 minutes from our place, so we're sharing her.
So how do you arrange like having a rainbow family like you do?
Well, Liv's mother is an old friend of my husband, and as I have been with my husband for 13 years, then she's an old friend of mine too. And at one point, she's heterosexual, and she was reaching 40 and wanted to have a child. So she asked us, and we were also in our late 30s. So everything was good, and then we tried at home. Actually, it was just how do you call that, home insemination, and it worked out in the first try. And then 9 months after, we had this little blonde girl with blue eyes.
So when you look at it from a law perspective, like here in Denmark, it's perfectly legal to do what you guys do. But like if you take her with you abroad, do you find that there's any issues with that?
At this point, she's only 5 years old, so we've only been to Spain with her actually, and I've been living in Spain, so I feel quite secure there. But I didn't think that much about it. But now that I think about it, there are, as I know now, 11 places in Europe out of 27. 11 countries that I don't want to travel to with my daughter, and that is because I'm not her biological father. My husband Mads is the biological father, and he's called far in Danish, and I'm called Papa. I'm Liv's Papa, and to her, of course, I'm just as much a parent as the two others. But if I was to travel alone with her to, for example, Poland or Hungary, I wouldn't be recognized as her parent. And in the case of a hospitalization, or if we were going to a doctor or something, I wouldn't be able to do that.
So in those countries, for you to be able to be recognized as a parent, you actually would have to adopt her, is that right?
Yes, but she already has two legal parents, and you can only be two parents at this point. Of course, that's something that I would like to have changed as well, at least in Denmark, but also in the Union.
Well, how do you think that the European politicians can have an effect on this issue? Like,
I think most of all it's a matter of I know you can't go into each and every member country and dictate how their legislation has to be. You can't do that, but you can put up some how do you call that? Some overall rules and regulations about how you have to acknowledge other member countries. And I feel that at least in a union where my country is a member, that the other countries should acknowledge my marriage and my and me being a parent to my child. That's the least thing. If you can marry in Poland or other countries, I would wish that you could, but it's not really my matter. I'm not gonna marry in Poland. But at least I think they should acknowledge that I'm married in the European Union and I have a daughter.
Actually, the European Parliament is putting out a strategy for 2020 to 2025, which also implements equal rights when it comes to the issues that you just talked about, like being a parent for your child and acknowledge gay marriages. What do you think about that?
I think it's about time. Actually, every time I think about these issues, I'm like, are we in 2021? Because we are only in Denmark, so many rainbow families and so many two dad families that went to the States to make a surrogacy baby over there, and there are so many cases that you cannot just sit down and not look at them at this point. And I think if you take the whole European Union, there must be so many rainbow families and so many same-sex marriages and everything. You can't just turn the other cheek. So I think it's about time. I think you should actually do it right now. Sit down and talk about how member countries can go against the free movement, because I see free movement as one of the ground pillars of having a union, of being in a union. And if I cannot move freely in almost half of the countries in the union that my country is a member of, should I be a member of that?
Now you just brought up surrogacy, like that's illegal in Europe overall. What do you think about that? Do you think there should be a political statement to legalize it, or?
I think so. Yeah, I do. I think that it would be no problem to legalize it, because it can be, as you do in the States, for example, it can be how do you say? You can make rules and regulations that prohibit all the darker sides around it. It works very fine in the States, as far as I can see, and I think that every woman should have the right to decide what they want to do with their body. It's not it should not be a government decision.
This might be a little bump. Most politicians don't want to talk about this. But what do you think about surrogacy? Like right now it's illegal in Europe. Do you see that it could be implemented in the future?
I think it's a really difficult discussion, and it's not a discussion that I've followed that much and I have that much knowledge about. And I think maybe that's also because of the lack of discussions that we are having, both in Denmark and in the EU. I think mostly when we discuss it in EU, there's a lot of parties, especially some of my Swedish colleagues, who link it with prostitution. So it's also grouped in that. But I think like there's definitely a lack of possibility of having a child when you're a same marriage or a same-sex couple. And I think my position would be more in favor of having it, or at least trying to see if you can make the frame so that it's based on, of course, a voluntary basis and not part of an economic needs. Because I think it can work, but it's also an area where I'm like not smart enough to have a reasoned opinion yet.
What if we talk about like same-sex marriages? Is that legal in Iceland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do you guys support like gay marriages?
Yes, but of course.
So, are you guys married or
We're not married. We're engaged.
engaged?
Yeah.
And is that like to be married at some point, or?
Yes, when we decide on how and when and where.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Find the best date and, all that stuff.
Get rid of COVID.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to you guys that you're able to get married?
Everything. Yeah, the rights that come with it. We buy a place together. One of us dies. We have to be sure that we have, that I can keep living there if she dies, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
It's a fundamental right for everybody. So.
Yeah.
Have you guys thought about children, or?
We have children. I have children.
Oh, you have children. Okay.
Yeah, with my former wife.
Okay. So, what is it like in Iceland when it comes to like having rainbow families? Do you guys have the same rights up there as like the straight couples, or?
Not 100%, but almost. You have to, have like if we were married and one of us got pregnant, it would have to be through a clinic. That it would have to be the formal route through a clinic, where she would, or the other partner would sign an agreement or stuff like that. If, like my kids, they were made in Denmark, Nina Stork, in Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. And when me and my former wife then went home to Iceland and I gave birth, we thought that she would automatically become the parent, as we were married and had been married for several years, but she had to adopt them. But it was no problem. Everybody kept excusing, I'm sorry, I have to come to look at your house and stuff like that. But we had to go through that. But it wasn't a problem.
Yeah. So do you think that there needs to be like improvements on that part, or?
I think it's just like when a straight couple, if your wife gets pregnant, you're assumed to be the father. But if it's the same sex, she can't be the father, so you have to sign some papers. Just, that's stupid.
So it should really be like if you're married or you've been together for such a long time, it should just be automatically?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I would like to talk about the European strategy, the 2020-2025 strategy that focuses on LGBT rights throughout Europe. Is there anything about this strategy that you think personally could be better?
I feel like the Commission have sort of stepped in to the role we need them to play as supporters of LGBT rights. I want to recognize this before I start criticizing them. Saying that, I think so much more could be done, especially when it comes to LGBT families. We have to respect LGBT families who are moving cross-border. So that means people who are going and getting married in one country, moving back to their country of origin, people who are moving to one country, having children and moving back to their country of origin, or moving to a third European country. Those families have to be recognized as families. That is one thing. The European Commission is moving on that, but that has to be recognized within the context of the free movement of people within the European Union, and this is going to make a huge difference when it comes to these families. Because today, as it happens, if you come to Denmark, get married, and move back to Croatia, Bulgaria, Slovenia, or Poland, your marriage and the legal sort of institution of your marriage is not necessarily recognized. This is where the Commission have to step up and make it part of the core of the idea.
Peter, you're lucky to live here in Denmark when it comes to like same-sex marriages. But what are your thoughts on it, like in general?
On same-sex marriage? I think it's important that people who want to get married can get married, no matter whether they are two men or two women or something else. I think it's sort of a basic right, both sort of economically, but also culturally, that you have the right to marry the one you want.
When it comes to gay couples and children, adoption is an option here in Denmark, but surrogacy is illegal. What are your thoughts about that?
I have a lot of thoughts about it, or I've thought a lot about it, and I haven't come to any conclusion. I don't know what should be done or not be done about that. I think there's a lot of different factors to think about, and especially when it comes to what people could call, well, it's a gay right or gay lesbian right, but it also crosses over with other people's rights to their own children, for example. So I think it's important that we think of it in a bigger context than just saying that gays and lesbians should have what they want. Yes, well, if it doesn't harm other people, and I'm not sure what I think about surrogacy in that context.
Do you think that you will have something like, let's say, same-sex marriages in 10 years?
This discussion is so personal for me because I'm staying with my partners already 30 years. And we still, who we are just friends in our country. We are nobody. And I still remember that it was so many times when our friends invite us to Copenhagen. By the way, Amnesty International asked us, please come and we can register a partnership here. And I told her, no, I would like to have it in my country. And I see that that the way with partnership might be even longer than I expect before, because I have to say that we in our parliament last I think that in February Parliament introduced the partnership law, and it's and the vote was negative, and we lost opportunity to introduce partnership law in Lithuania. It showed that we still have to work a lot, and probably it will take longer.
Well, if we look at what the EU, like the European Parliament, have rolled out, they have rolled out this strategy, 2020 to 2025, with focus on LGBTQ plus persons and their rights. What do you think about that? Do you think that that will be something that would have an effect in Lithuania?
You know, I remember the great speech of Ursula von der Leyen. For me, it was so emotional moment, and it was, you know, deep in the inside of me how I felt when I hear this message for LGBT community and for progressive part of society, because I got it as a personal message for me, because I believe that that the European Parliament and European Commission try to change the situation and send a message for all our countries, for all politicians and government, that this is already time to start change the life of LGBT people now, not tomorrow, because, you know, life is too short. I want to see result of these changes, because it's exactly what we need. And this strategy stands for me and for my community in Lithuania message of hope.
When it comes to rainbow families, then I could imagine that social media is a big thing today, like, you know, sharing knowledge, sharing experiences and stuff like that. What are your opinion on that?
Yeah, actually, rainbow families are different all over the world. in the United States, for example, you first of all, you don't call them rainbow families. They only know rainbow families because we call it rainbow families here. And over there, it's mostly families that have that made a child through surrogacy, as we talked about as well. But there are no real for how do you call that, LGBT plus families. And I found out that recently, actually three years ago, when I was looking on Instagram for families like mine. I was just trying to search different hashtags, and I found a lot of pictures of two fathers and their kids. But there was not a real a place where this was gathered. So I decided to just start fora, do you call it? Yeah. And in 3 years that has actually grown very big. It's called Two Dads Worldwide. And it has, at this point, it has reached 60,000 followers from all over the world, mainly from the United States. All I do is that I repost pictures every day of double dad families, as I call them, and it's very strict. It's not one father and a child, or a mother, father and a child, or it's only two fathers and children or a child. No commercials, no anything, and that's very popular.
But if you just talked about Instagram, like Facebook, is that a big thing as well? Like, do you guys use that to share like your world and experience with other?
In Denmark, I decided to do that because I found out that we only have Facebook groups for people who search for a rainbow family. We have a lot of forums for people who want to meet someone to make a rainbow family with, but we didn't have any fora for the rainbow families already existing. And I think it's very important in every aspect of your life to meet someone that you can how do you say that, relate to, yeah. So I opened a Facebook group called Danish Rainbow Family, or Danish Rainbow Parents, and it's a closed group. And there's a question screening before you enter, because I want it to be a group where we can actually discuss things that are related to our lives. We don't want anyone entering to ask for, can I be part of your rainbow family, or do you want to make a rainbow family with me? There are forums for that. This is only for for the families, and that's actually been quite positive as well.